Okay guys, today's a new day. I ended up ordering a new connecting rod bearing set for that one rod. Um, Funny thing is, Summit didn't have it in stock. Jags wanted more for shipping. I ended up buying it off Walmart.com, which is pretty unusual. And it was actually cheaper than Summit and Jags. So I went with that for now. I'm just going to replace that one bearing. The other bearings look good. I'll show you some other stuff I've done. So I pulled the harmonic balancer off. I pulled the cam out. I wanted to kind of see what the cam was. I was really curious if it's still stock or if it had a bigger cam. It does have a bigger cam in it. I don't know what it is. It's a Manly, but the grind numbers on the back, it's been stamped multiple times, so I don't know which grind number it is, so that's kind of weird. And the cam has not really rust, but like, you know how in oil, if it's sitting on something, kind of gets like a rust look to it, so I wanted to pull it out and just clean that all off. So there's the camshaft. Still need to lightly clean it up. I cleaned all the oil sludge out of the oil pan. That was pretty bad because before they started putting detergent in oils, old motor oil would get like really caked and nasty and just make gunk in the bottom of the pan, so I got that all out of there. Um, there's timing, gear, and chain. I have all the brand new gaskets for the engine, so I'll be putting that all back together too. But that's where it is right now. I'm going to install that connecting rod bearing and the rod and piston back in and work on putting the engine back together. Ultra fine steel wool, like 4 zeros, like the finest you can get. So it's not gonna hurt cam lobes. I'm just cleaning up any surface imperfections from this engine sitting. That's not bad at all. It does have still a little bit of spots on it, but nothing that's gonna cause any problems. You can see right there just some little rust imperfections from the oil that was sitting there for how long. One of my LS engines I was working on, I bought a brand new camshaft from one of the big mail order online parts companies I won't name. And it was their own brand because I was just trying to do a cheap budget cam upgrade for a sloppy LS turbo build I'm doing in a 63 C10 pickup I have. And the cam came from them brand new, sealed in the package, covered in rust. So I contacted them, let them know. They sent me another one, like 24 hours, and the second one came all rusted too. So I ended up buying just brand new comp cams for that. Okay, so I cleaned that all off the lobes. Should be good to go in. Just oil it up and put it back in the engine. Okay, I'm gonna coat the cam in oil. And that's that. Okay, I'm gonna put the timing gear back on. Okay, so these bearings did end up being 10 undersize, so about the correct size. So I'm gonna install that in the rod. This is some small bearing assembly loop. So that's the upper. Put the little protectors on the rod bolts. Okay, and then spin the crank. Now it's centered. And there you go. The only one tell you can't do it without a ring compressor, because there's other ways to make things happen too. Like to say, when there's a will, there's a way, right? Okay, rod and piston are in. There's the other half of the bearing. Thought it would have the little tab, but oh, I guess it has a real small one. Not quite as noticeable as the other one. There you go. Let's reinstall that. Torque spec is 45 on these rod cap nuts. So let's start at 20. And then I'll go up. That's 45. I put a poll up on my Instagram account of whether I should leave the motor weathered, paint it orange, or like paint it orange and then do like a new tunnel around with 2.4s, or if I should reuse the old intake and carburetor I have. And surprisingly, people want to see it weathered looking with the old intake and carb I already have. So kind of weird to put the engine back together and not paint it, but that's what people want to see. So I guess it's kind of cool if it doesn't even look like the engine should run because it looks so bad, but doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna drive the car the way it is. So I got that other 440 if I wanted to build a nicer 440, but I'd rather work on getting a Hemi put back in the car next though instead of another 440. So if you wonder why I'm putting it back together all peeling paint and crusty looking, that's why. So on the Mopar forum, I found out the info on the cam just has a small cam in it, nothing crazy. I also got in touch with the previous owner of this car. He owned it from 84 to 1990 and said this car was all over the place in Long Island. He used to see it in different people's driveways. Said when he was in high school, he remembers passing it every day on the school bus, sitting in someone's driveway. And then later, his friend bought the car. And at that time, he said the car wasn't running right. His friend got it figured out, had something to do with the valve train, had like the wrong push rods or something in it. So his friend got that all figured out, and then this guy bought it off his friend for $1,000, and he owned it during that period. And he said the car at that time already was completely gutted of all the stock wiring harnesses, everything. It was just a drag car. So he said he used to flat tow it to West Hampton Dragway, and he would drag race it there for fun. Said he used to go into Kirby Dodge parts department, and they were a direct connection dealer. And he owned, at that time, he owned 2 or 3 other Roadrunners and a 70 Charger. He still owns the 70 Charger. He said that he used to go there to buy his high performance parts, and I guess I need to back up first. He said the reason why the car's got the blue fiberglass fenders is those are on one of his other Roadrunners. So he put them on this car since they would be lighter. So that's why they're the wrong color. Said he threw the original fenders away at that time. What else? He said the two things that he noticed that it changed after he sold the car is the seats and the exhaust. He said when he owned it, it never had exhaust on it. He did say later that West Hampton Dragway required you to run exhaust, so he thinks that's probably why it ended up with exhaust. As far as the seats, he said it just had a single fiberglass bucket seat in it. He said when he owned it, it did still have the Hemi transmission, but the Hemi was long gone by then. But he said, anyways, when he was at Herbie Dodge, they all knew he had a Hemi Roadrunner, but he said he was in his early 20s, he didn't have a lot of money, and knew that at that time, it was very hard to find restoration parts for these cars, and knew he didn't have the time, money, or resources to restore it, and some guy came in there that knew he had it and wanted the car, and he was under the impression that the guy was going to restore the car, so he sold him the car for $2,500. And then we kind of think the guy he sold the car to is the guy my cousin got the car from. So the guy ended up doing nothing with it all those years. It just sat in his backyard and got in way worse shape, because this guy said when he owned it, it had no dents, the paint was very nice, and it had one very small little rot spot on the back corner of the rear glass. So it's kind of a bummer that it just got put in the backyard and went to pot. But that's just how life goes, I suppose. So he still lives in the Long Island area, and says he's going to stay in touch with me. Says he still has his time slip, and thinks he has some pictures of the car somewhere. So hopefully he can find pictures, that'd be cool. He said there was if you search West Hampton Dragway videos on YouTube, I tried to find it, I haven't been able to find it yet, but he said in one of the videos from the 80s, that does show this car making a pass. But he's going to come down to Carlisle this summer and wants to see it again. Says he always wondered what happened to this car. He thought it either went to Europe or Canada, so he was really surprised that it's in Pennsylvania. And he said this 440 was the one that was in the car when he raced it, and he doesn't know at that time anything about the engine because he never took it apart. But he said he was under the impression that this was just a junkyard 440 that was in the car, and right now it's 30 over, but he doesn't know if it was 30 over back then or someone rebuilt it after he owned it or not. So we're not real sure how what it was back then or not. So but it was neat to talk to him. He remembered a lot of stuff about this car. I'm using Felpro gaskets. I've always found them to be the best quality. I've never had any leak either, so. Oh yeah, he also mentioned he was the one that added the snorkel hood scoop to the car. Kinda want to take this car to the Holly Mow Party show in Kentucky. I think that could be fun. Let me know if any of you guys have been to that one. Seems like Holly does a pretty good job of making their events really fun events instead of just a normal boring car show. So I think that might be an option. I'll just have to see how things go this year. I think it's about 9 hours from me. Any of you guys ran the 440 stealth aluminum heads on your cars? I think those are supposed to be pretty good for the money. Let me know if you ran those. I realized that my heads are missing all the rocker arms and shafts, so it looks like they might have the best deal on buying that as like a kit to just put them back on my heads. So, but it would be nice one day to put the aluminum heads on here. It's interesting to see the different ways Mopar did things than like GM did things. Seeing a starter ring gear on a torque converter. It sure looks weird. But in a way it's kind of neat that you don't have to deal with that on like a flex plate. The intake valley pan kind of reminds me of a Pontiac. Part of me is really wanting to paint the fenders white and paint the hood before the Carlisle show. I kind of don't like how rough it looks. It's interesting to see the different ways Mopar did things than like GM did things. Seeing a starter ring gear on a torque converter. It sure looks weird. But in a way it's kind of neat that you don't have to deal with that on like a flex plate. The intake valley pan kind of reminds me of a Pontiac. Part of me is really wanting to paint the fenders white and paint the hood before the Carlisle show. I kind of don't like how rough it looks. The previous owner said the hood looked like that when he had it too. He thinks it may have had an engine fire because the way someone like skimmed it with a light coat of Bondo and the way everything's peeling off, and also the whole engine bay is black instead of white, so he might be right on that one. It does seem like a good reason why all that ended up kind of weird. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed learning about the past history of the car. It was really fun getting a chance to talk to the previous owner. I know these engine videos aren't always the most exciting to watch, so I appreciate you sticking around, and I'll catch you on the next one.